Bellicores of Breath and Bone. This is an album that's getting a lot of attention. It's making a lot of waves amongst the metal community, especially on a particular website that's going to go nameless at this particular juncture. I may name it later in the review. There have been a lot of people that have been giving this album high praise ever since its release a couple of days ago. So, of course, it is time for coverkillernation to examine this album and see what all the hype is about. Now, this is not my first experience with this band. In fact, I have listened to their previous 2 records already, and they are very, very good. This is a melodic, progressive death metal band. A lot of people consider them to be really an epic side to the Gothenburg sound, and they do definitely have a lot of different positive things to offer. They are extremely melodic. Their compositions are very forthright. Not to mention, you can harken back many different names to really accurately describe their sound. And of course, whenever you add in that progressive death metal twinge, one of the names that you have to consider is Opeth. Now, you're not going to hear too much Opeth in this. It's going to be more based around the construction and kind of just the general sound or the general way in which it's being reproduced, but Opeth really has nothing to do with this band whatsoever in this particular light. However, this is a band that is using a very direct approach, and it is a band that has gained accolades in the past for using this approach, so they have opted to use it again. That said, that is actually one issue that I do have with this record, and one issue that I have with all of the mainstream adoration behind it being present. This is an album that reminds me a lot of their previous record, the record that came out just a year or so ago. And it just, there's a lot of similarity to it in the fact that in its construction, in the way in which the sound really has not really evolved all that much. It's basically like they saw that the formula that they used on their previous affair worked beautifully, so they opted to do it again. Now, one thing I will say is that it's a damn good formula, so it's really difficult to argue with that logic because it gained them a lot of accolade, and it really sparked the imaginations of a lot of people out there. So, why not use it on Breath and Bone? Why not use it again? Why not employ it and make it even further epic, and make a whole entire album based around it? Now, sonically, this is an album that has beauty to it, but it also has brutality to it. This is another one of those records that really is able to mold and merge the two, hence why the progressive tag is right up this band's alley. It is absolutely accurate. However, what I hear on this album is it's very, very good. It certainly has a lot of great moments. It is extremely, extremely well developed. The songwriting and musicianship are certainly, very near the top of the league, but that's the thing. It's just very near the top of the league. It's still something that I have heard a couple of different times before. It's not something where it's so absolutely unique that it's garnering, massive praise. Now, someone out there might say that coverkillernation, Creator really didn't do anything all of that interesting. Creator didn't do anything all that new, and yet you gave it a 10 out of 10. What the fuck, man? What is wrong? I'll tell you what it is. The fact that the Creator album, considering it is still thrash metal with a very melodic side to it, considering they're getting a little bit more melodic, it is still an album that spoke. It spoke just absolute novels to me. It spoke a lot of social awareness. It spoke a lot of, praises. Or not sure I say praises, but a lot of damnation for those that are just merely sheep. It spoke a lot of uprising, a lot of, revolution. It really, as I said in the review of that, seemed like the soundtrack for the past year of the World Collective. And that is something that is difficult to put in a sonic fashion. So I have to give them all the praise in the world. Not to mention the replayability of that album is very, very high. With this album, there is replayability, but it's not nearly as high. There are great moments on this album, but they are not terrific moments. This is an album that I could see myself sitting down and enjoying on any random night of the week, just kind of because I decide to throw it on. This is not something where I'm going to immediately think of the album whenever I'm considering what I'm going to listen to that night. It's going to kind of be in the back of my memory as a reserve option, as opposed to being the primary option. Now, am I hating on this band because I just reviewed what I consider to be a stalwart? No. This is a great release. However, if you want a great release by this band, consider their last one. If you want a great release by this band, consider their first album. They have a very impressive discography, but if you want something that's going to be like miles different from the next, this hasn't happened yet. That evolution has not yet occurred with Belekwa. And this is a band that certainly, whenever they're moving on to perhaps their fourth and fifth albums, needs to maybe consider a little bit. What they're doing right now is fantastic. What they're doing right now is strengthening the progressive melodic metal genre or subgenre to really new Hulk-like levels. However, they could even continue on a little bit further and just really wow crowds and audiences and kind of take things in an even deeper progressive direction. And wow, just thinking about it makes me wonder what that could sound like and how impressed I would really be by it. Overall, this album does have a lot of positive strong points, and it definitely has a collective grouping of 8 songs that do get the job done. However, it doesn't get the job done in top-of-the-line fashion. I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10. I know that the melee and maelstrom of what the fucks are coming, but I expect them and I implore them. I don't feel the same as you do. 10 out of 10ers, 9 out of 10ers. It's good, but it's not great. Or actually, in this case, it's great, but it's not terrific.